Bom, bom, bom.
Yes, so Hairless here. Today we are back with a Patreon request. Thank you for this one. This is In the Hall of the Mountain King by VoicePlay. In the Hall of the Mountain King. It's a piece of orchestral music by the Norwegian composer Edvard Grieg. It was written for Ibsen's play Peer Gynt, or to try and pronounce it correctly, Per Gynt. Premiered in 1876, it's almost 150 years old. Here's a picture of the original Per. I always find stuff like that interesting. It's an extremely iconic piece of music. Everyone's probably heard it at some point or another. Where I'm from, for example, it's been used in a lot of adverts on TV, or at least I think it has. About the piece itself, hectic is a word that comes to mind. Throughout it, we get an increase in tempo and volume and texture. It's not something I'd listen to relax, let's put it that way. Apparently Grieg himself wrote the following about the music. For the Hall of the Mountain King, I have written something that so reeks of cowpats, ultra-Norwegianism, and to thyself be enoughness, that I cannot bear to hear it, though I hope that the irony will make itself felt. That sounds like it should be right up VoicePlay street. This is featuring a new face to the channel, Elizabeth Garozzo. I don't know her, and I've not seen her before, so that should be exciting. I think let's get straight into it.
Bom, bom, bom. La 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 la.
Okay, to keep myself sane, we're pausing. People beforehand told me that there's going to be a lot in this, and I can see why. It's about 3.5 minutes long, we're about 1 minute in now. If you don't like the pauses and you don't want to hear my analysis, you can go to the timestamp. Okay, I'm just going to need to go back and go through this. Firstly, the makeup and the special effects. I don't need to say anything, just wow, full marks. I think Lane is the most changed, which is weird because look at all of them, but with those green eyes and just this orangeness. Yeah, it's very weird to see. So onto the music, you've guessed it, like VoicePlay always do, they keep it in the same key, which in this case is B minor. The movement of them in the opening, where they're coming in slowly, bouncing. It really reminds me of their Oogie Boogie song.
Santa Claus, huh?
Weirdly, I find the movement itself catchy because I associate the music when I hear it thereafter with what I've seen. And the bobbing up and down I find really accentuates the rhythmic vitality at this point. Speaking of, we know VoicePlay love their rhythms, the rhythmic intricacies, complex rhythmic offsetting between parts, that kind of thing. This opening, whilst it's not necessarily that complex, it needs to be very, very tight to achieve the effect that they do achieve. Cue Sir Hairless from the future to transcribe this opening because it's very interesting. So here we are with the music. I'm not 100% if the voicing is exactly accurate because the parts really jump around a bit in the ranges and they overlap each other. We've got a baritone part using a falsetto or a blended voice, for example. I think Elizabeth is the second highest part in general. So I've scored this for 3 tenors and a bass to suit the ranges, but these are the right notes. I've put the names by each part, so let's just go with this for now. Also, this software marks anything below the expected range in red. Just goes to show how consistently low Jeff's parts are. Notice how important it is that after each of their notes they all take a breath of an equal length before singing their next note. You'll see that this is 4 parts. One of them isn't singing, I think Ellie. The parts are all interesting though. They're not just standard arpeggios moving from low to high. The parts do jump about, as I said, which makes things more interesting, even if it's just due to the fact that every singer has a different timbre, a different tone to their voice. So if person A goes from singing the low note to the high note, their role is changing with each note from low to high, but their natural timbre, their tone, is not changing. So naturally it's more interesting to listen to coming from the perspective of variety. Let's just listen to Jeff and Lane's parts, the bottom and second bottom part, for example. Now, let's imagine each cycle where all of the 4 singers each sing one note. This is like a segment as indicated by these boxes. One box equals one 4-note cycle. Here, you'll see that I've coloured the lines. The red is the lowest part of each segment, the pink is the second lowest part of each segment, the blue is the second highest, and the green is the highest. So we can see how the parts change roles, and how the middle part, which I think is Elizabeth, never changes. However, the top and the second lowest parts, so parts 1 and 3 out of 4, they're constantly changing roles with each other. So yeah, to me this is not necessary by any means, but they've implemented these changing roles for subtle variety to be a bit more interesting right from the off. We get these cool percussive effects in the background that we can hear, like the other parts are singing but just not making any sound, almost as if it's just the consonant sounds we can hear. That kind of thing definitely adds to the mystique of everything. The comical entries by Caesar and Ellie, they're great. There are no lyrics, so singing in a funny way, an unconventional way. It's a great way to add a bit of character, with Ellie's low growl here that we just heard, contrasting later on when he has this little operatic falsetto moment. I like the soft beat that we hear as well, which seems to be a bit more focused on the type of sounds that I associate with resonating percussion. At the end we get something like that. 3 of those at the end, whereas previously at the end of every section or phrase we only hear it twice. So we have the focus on Ellie now. Previously it was just Caesar and Jeff. There were no other filler parts. The filler parts now have entered opposite to how they were at the beginning. Now they're very legato, very smooth. And the notes that they sing, the ranges, they're restricted as well to make these filler parts not too obvious. The purpose of them is to blend in. But now on the next phrase, more obvious. The volume increases and they're less restricted in terms of range. For example, there was that part going... Elizabeth gets the melody now, and whilst a bit less comical than we've seen before, she's still not serious. She's using a lot of swelling and sliding between the notes. Moving on, how are they keeping us engaged when there are no lyrics? And of course, aside from the crazy costumes and the set, well, they're keeping things interesting. They're changing up the texture, handing over the melody between parts. Now we get Jeff with the melody, and the other parts are chordal with no beat really at this point. We get the classic voice play, quick rhythmic offloads between parts, and there is kind of a beat. More sound effects and clicks, not an obvious beat. Even the click might be a sound effect for all I know. And again, just changing up the texture, we now get a unison bit, which is setting us up for the real modernization of the work. And this is where our head starts bopping. And again, variety. Every phrase, every section, we get something new, something different. It's crazy, it's crazy. We go from la da da, kind of la da da, to then a dum 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 sound, and then a very obvious la la la. And this is about 6 or so seconds before where we pause, so I think let's carry on. I'm rewinding 5 seconds or so. There's too much, there's too much. Ooh, yeah, there's a lot going on. This is one of those arrangements, I probably stressed it enough just from the first minute, but the theme continues. There's just variety in everything. Very, very cool arrangement. Alright, well, what have we seen? Elizabeth drinks the potion, and what a voice. Clearly she's operatically trained, I'd say. There's so much focus in her sound. I bet she'd be great at singing the Queen of the Night. Then we get this bit, which is really fun from Lane. You know, we don't hear him sing much, but he could be a voice actor. Perfect voice for a cartoon dog or something. Wait, that sounds bad. I'm not calling him a dog. It just reminds me of cartoons I watched as a kid. There's a lot of character to his voice here. And just after his bit, we get these nice swelling phrases through these homophonic la 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 la. They go up and then back down. Leading into this bit, Ellie times 2. This is funny, this little imp-like rock tenor Ellie on the shoulder. And then, just getting dashed into the cauldron. Oh, it's funny. It's a shame little Ellie got gruesomely murdered by Big Ellie, because he's now missed out on this musical mastery. Here they go with what they're so good at, rhythmic manipulation. We can all agree that there's some real urgency to the sound here. The key to this is, and here we welcome our good friend coming to say hello again, the hemiola. The part to listen out for is this one. And the hemiola, 3 beats in the space of 2. And the other obvious part is on this note, on the off beats. So... So those two parts really work against each other to create this structured, rhythmic mess. Very cool. So then we get this bit, for which the overall effect, I imagine, should be quite mysterious. As well as implementing a slow falling arpeggio. The harmony itself, the notes they've chosen are great. All parts are in the high register now, so this is what we're hearing. Which then resolves to a nice pure chord. And that takes us back to fun cartoon Lane. Interestingly, they've gone to the parallel major here. All this means the piece is in B minor. Here, they've gone to B major. So that's why it sounds both familiar and unfamiliar, different at the same time. Because it's the same root, it's still a B chord, but they just use a number of different notes. Oh, but here they've now gone back to minor. This descending motif that they repeat several times. They're really rubbing in the fact that they just changed to major. Just briefly, whilst Lane was intoxicated, bubbles coming out of his mouth. But now they're really drilling in the fact that they've gone back to minor. And there, Jeff, he goes down here. And then the note below that would be a B0. And then for the next whole section, they've implemented these stamps in. So human body percussion. I like them. It keeps us moving with them. And it allows them to drop out everything except for Jeff. And we still have this rhythmic drive. Let's continue.
Thanks for watching. Did you know we're selling merchandise? Really? What? Check us out. Stop eating the merchandise. See you. Yeah, see you soon.
That last bit's good as well. They're those character voices I think I first heard in Oogie Boogie that I thought were quite cool. Cool merchandise as well. Alright, let's be real. There's so much going on there that I've probably missed a million things. So I'm going to go back through that last bit and then just talk about some of the more interesting things, I think. So the first thing, it kind of got me giggling. It's the bodily function sound effects and visual effects. But the first one, Caesar's little toot. Oh, with the red smoke. Oh, it's the best. Oh, funny. And at this point, things are getting a bit hectic for obvious reasons. Jeff has this drone at the bottom, sustained notes. Now, I don't know how they've done this inner part here, but there's this really, really rhythmic part. Moving every half beat, but perfectly pitch accurate, jumping between the parts. You know, that's a really, really insanely difficult part. So I'm not sure how they've done it, who it is. It's an extra voice. Because it's moving so quickly between notes, it's almost kind of just like providing this chord underneath everything. And then we get nice harmonic change here. The leading part in my mind is the part that goes. But the rapid inner part, that extra voice going I was just talking about, that just before this is actually singing an A natural. And the part that I just played goes to bring it down. And the other part, which is basically F sharp minor versus major. So there's a bit of harmonic conflict within these parts. Doesn't matter though, because then Elizabeth smashes this. Immediately, that's where our attention goes. And then a very, very clever bit, I think. We get this swingy bit. If you saw my recent home free video all about that bass, it's the same principle that's been applied here, which is we've moved from common time to compound time. Common time, we have the 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of these beats is subdivided into 2 smaller beats, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. In compound time, you subdivide each of the 4 beats into 3 beats. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is what enables these swing rhythms. And the swing section exaggerates the immediate next section. We've gone back to common time, very rhythmically regimented. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then from here to the end, we've basically got an increase in tempo and an increase in pitch, or a rise in pitch. We move up through the parts from low to high. And then finally we get these unresolved chords before the final resolved chord. And that resolved chord, unfortunately, makes them disappear. Wow, again, the production value is just crazy good, isn't it? Great arrangement, taking a classic piece of music like that and just doing so much with it, so much variety. As I mentioned in the introduction, the original piece of music is not one that I would choose to listen to relax or have in the background because it's just so intense. So VoicePlay adding even more variety to this already intense bit of music, it just makes it a very intense work overall. So it'll be interesting to see how many times I can listen to this before I cannot take it anymore. But we'll see. Yeah, overall, that was great. So much cool stuff going on there. Thank you again for this request, and thank you to everyone for watching. As always, would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, want to support me, join the community and vote on future polls, you can do so by joining the YouTube membership or Patreon linked below. And I will see you next time.